Welcome back, True Seeker. Of course, tonight is the debate in Philadelphia. Kamala versus Trump, 56 days before November 5th, which is the day leaving 56 days left in the year. And it's a reminder that these two stooges both worked very hard against the American people and on behalf of the World Economic Forum, the Switzerland bankers, the World Health Organization. And for it, they've been elevated to the top as our candidates in 2024. And if anybody votes for either of these people, they're surely not very smart. Again, we'll get to why it matters, this whole 56 thing, and remind what that had to do with the pandemic, where supposedly the government cared about the health of the American people for the very first time, so much so that they had to lock down the nation, end people's way of life. You couldn't go to work, you couldn't go to school, you couldn't go to church, you couldn't go to the gym. The liquor store needs to stay open though. And sadly, they needed to keep the liquor store open because there's so many alcoholics in this nation that if they don't get their fix, they'll literally die. Thanks to Big Brother ending prohibition in 1933 and creating a nation of drunkards, because they did it at a time when people were at the lowest point in their life because the powers that shouldn't be had purposefully sabotaged the economy of the US to move people out of, the agricultural community and into the factories, into the slaughterhouses, so that the big fat cats could take advantage of a very, vulnerable populace. But yeah, again, here's an issue you're not going to hear about tonight. You're not, and again, this has been an issue for a long time, and it continues to get worse every year. And it's a real reminder that the government could care less about your health, and in fact, they want to make you sick and disease ridden. Again, our nation, for all of my lifetime and beyond, has subsidized sugar and corn for the sake of making essentially fake sugar, which is even worse, high fructose corn syrup, to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars. And these things are not good for human health, especially when they're taken in overabundance, as nearly every American does. Nearly every American's diet has way too much sugar. I mean, nobody should have high fructose corn syrup in their diet. But again, it's a cheaper form of sugar. It's used as a preservative. It goes in all these processed foods that sit on the shelves that are made simply because they're profitable. And again, you have to understand that it's because a wrecking ball's been taken to American society, and we're 100 years into this agenda. The Great Depression didn't happen by accident. It happened because it was carefully manipulated, and it's because the industrialists wanted to, again, gain a stranglehold over the people of this nation. And, from the Great Depression on until we've gotten to a place where there's like 3, 4, maybe 5 mega corporations that control nearly every industry, if there's even that many left in the industry. But yeah, nobody's going to talk about tonight on the debate stage how nearly half of U.S. children are now obese. I mean, that's almost the statistic. Nearly half of children in the U.S. are obese. Again, that's a rapid decline in human health, especially in young people. Like I said, when I was a child, I think the ratio was probably like 1 out of 500 children were obese, a fraction of a percentage point, and now it's all the way up to a half. It wasn't that long ago I was a child myself, I still remember my first day of kindergarten, 1988. Funny enough, that's back when Oprah was asking Trump if he'd want to be president someday. And now we know why she asked him in 88. But again, this isn't going to come up tonight. It's not going to come up tonight how we continue to subsidize junk food. And really, this is it. You have to think about all the dominoes that fall because of this. As society gets less and less healthy, more and more obese, more and more disease ridden, what happens then? Then we have all these other government programs. Some might describe them as socialist/communist programs, where you have Big Brother paying everyone's medical bills, and those bills are crazy. And why are the medical bills so crazy? Because the insurance industry, which is part of this fascist system. Their rates are so crazy. So we end up generating all of this debt that becomes taxpayer obligation. And that's why you have Kamala now making crazy proposals. Like if she becomes president, she's floated the idea of a 30% tax rate on unrealized capital gains. And again, I'm going to keep hammering this home because this is a scary thing if she becomes president. If you buy your first home and your market, again, if your home appreciated $50,000, you're not selling it. Your property taxes are going to go up already, so you're already going to have a bigger tax obligation. But with Kamala's idea that unrealized capital gain, because you haven't sold your house, because it's now worth $50,000 more, you're going to owe 30% taxes on that, which means you're going to have to pull $15,000 more out of your pocket for your tax liability for that year. So your property taxes are up. You got an extra $15,000 in unrealized capital gains. Your mortgage payments already through the roof. You know, as high as prices are and current interest rates. I mean, just to pull off a home, to purchase a home as a young person right now seems like a miracle. And now with this new Kamala idea on top of it, if that goes through, if she becomes the president and that happens, again, this goes right back to what Klaus Schwab said in 2020 at the World Economic Forum. By 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. And since then, we've seen interest rates skyrocket. You know, a lot of us haven't made a single claim, but we're paying probably double in interest from what we were 4 years ago, if not double, close to it. Haven't made a single claim, but just interest rates are just way, way higher. You know, my home insurance rate in 2018 was about $40 a month. I have the same type of house, same square footage, same quality of house, over $100 a month right now. It's more than doubled for me. Haven't made any claims. And we know what's going on too, right? People say, oh, it's because of the climate change and all the crazy weather and you know, all the properties getting destroyed. You know, the truth of that's not going to come up tonight at the debate. And the American people, they wouldn't even be ready to swallow that truth. Again, it's amazing how JFK, September 25th, 1961, went to the United Nations and talked about the future of weather control and how through this weather control technology, they can ensure there's no more drought, that there's healthy harvest of crops. I'd have to go back and listen to the whole speech. I'm not sure if he talked about, you know, putting out forest fires. I don't think that was part of it, but I mean, that'd be another idea. You got a forest fire burning. Why not bring in Operation Popeye like they did to Vietnam and create the rainfall in the area to stop the forest fire? Instead of doing that, they're doing the opposite. They do have the weather control technology, which they used in Vietnam, which the Royal Air Force used in 1952 on August 15th. Again, that should be a conversation right now. That should come up on the debate stage tonight. You know, the West Coast, other parts of this country have been hammered with fires. Maybe we need to go back to what JFK talked about 60 some years ago and really get that in motion and try and stop the massive fire damage. A lot of us have been living out in a smoke cloud for nearly the whole summer for the last 6 years, living out on the West Coast. Makes the summers unpleasant. And it's not healthy for us. It's like you might not smoke cigarettes, but you're smoking trees, because there's smoke all in your air through the whole summer. And again, it's because all these fires that the insurance rates are so high. They're not going to talk about these things. But these are the things that really should be talked about. If we don't figure out how to create a healthy populace, or here, let's just put it this way. If we figured out how to create a healthy populace, imagine how much the medical bills would come down for the nation. Because how many people are racking up, you know, a boatload of expenses in the medical world, and a lot of people who can't even take care of themselves. So it all becomes, you know, government expenditure, taxpayer expenditure. If we had a healthy populace, this wouldn't be happening. You see, it's because the banker tyrants, though, run this nation. They want all this. Debt is good for them. Inflation's good for them. All of these things work out for them. It doesn't work out for the common person, but it works out for the fat cat who sits on top of the system, who helped invent this sick system, who owns these politicians. You got to have a lot of money to get up on the stage or be backed by big money because you'll do their bidding. Just like Donald Trump, you know, he's a guy who got bailed out by the bankers how many times with his bankruptcies? Born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Tons of bankruptcies. When you have a bankruptcy, that means you get the taxpayers to pay for your financial mistakes. How many of us have ever had to file for bankruptcy? Most people haven't had to do that. That's a pretty rare thing in the common people to have to file for bankruptcy. It's the rich fat cats like the Donald Trumps of the world that like to use the bankruptcy law so they don't have to pay for their failed businesses. And again, that's why Donald Trump's such a perfect government guy. Comes from a family of people who've worked for the Fed. These people that sit on top of this system, they just like to thieve from the populace. Steal their income, say, oh, yeah, you got to pay your taxes. We got some more expenses we just came up with. Again, these are the things that need to be talked about tonight, and you're not going to hear a peep about any of them. They're going to be arguing over abortion. How many more times are people going to go out to the ballot box and vote for either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party because they identify as pro-life or pro-choice? How many more times are we going to play this game? You don't see how these two parties need the constant strife over abortion? Again, if we had real leadership, they wouldn't be playing this political game of pro-life, pro-choice. They'd be talking about how to create a society where no mother felt the need to have an abortion. If every woman in this country felt like they had the support of community, like if they actually had a community. See, it comes back to a values thing. How do you create a society of people who have good values, who look out for each other, who don't thieve from each other and try to kill each other and steal from each other and want to help out their neighbors? How do you do this? Well, of course, you have to start from the ground up. We need to revitalize the U.S. education system. Instead of confusing first graders with learning addition, subtraction, multiplication, geometry, just everything thrown at them as they learn none of it because it's just coming at them one lesson a week and on to the next topic at too young of an age. Instead of this, the early years of school should be about values and learning why it's important to cooperate and work together and what synergy is and the power of a group and what it looks like when people have a community, how much easier it is when people share and care for each other. Again, that doesn't have to be a socialist communist thing. That could just be understanding really the value of people working together. Teach real world examples in the classroom of how much easier it is to accomplish goals when you have a team of people working towards it. Again, these things aren't going to happen because they want a society of individuals who are all separated and easily ruled over by this corporatocracy that really controls this nation. Imagine if we had communities where everybody learned how to share their Wi-Fi and their cable and everything. I mean, it'd work out good for the community. They'd save a lot of money, but it wouldn't work good for Comcast or Cox, who Big Brother allows these cable companies to have monopolies in markets so they can charge 5 times, what people have to pay in Europe for the same service. And if you guys don't realize that in America, it's true. Europe, their cable and all that is a fraction of what we pay, because their government doesn't allow these companies to have monopolies in certain markets and exploit everybody. What else needs to be talked about that they're not going to talk about? I'm sure they're going to bring up Ukraine and Israel and stuff, but they're not going to say the right things. Both of these candidates are going to be for nation building and, the military industrial complex and giving. I mean, isn't it that way every year that they'll slash certain things in the government budget, but every single new government budget, the military expenditure is bigger and bigger and bigger. Every time it's bigger. It's like it never goes down. It's always bigger. They'll cut in other places, and that's fine because there's just so many things that just need to be cut all the way, in my opinion. Again, if people were taught how to take care of themselves and be intelligent, we wouldn't need the government to save our money for us. That's a whole nother topic, but again, just the fact that we do spend just crazy, insane amounts of money on military when we already have a military that's bigger than like the rest of the world's military combined by a lot. Russia's supposedly the next biggest threat. What is Russia's international military presence? It's nothing compared to the U.S. Like, if this is the size of Russia's nothing, the U.S. is like a skyscraper as tall as the One World Trade Center. Talk about the military industrial complex. You know what I mean? They got to create all these boogeymen. And why do they do this? It's because all of our money is being siphoned to the fat cats. Weapons are big money. Drugs are big money. Pharmaceuticals, big money. All of these things that command so much. And it's like, what is the average American really getting back from any of these programs? Do we need to be spending $60 million a day for NASA? Because we do. It might be higher than that. I'm talking about terms from 4 years ago. With inflation, it's probably up to $80 million a day. That's what it was 4 years ago, $60 million a day. I bet it's even higher now. Why? I mean, you guys, you go through all of these cities with all of these homeless population. Imagine if we were spending 60 million a day to take care of that problem. And that's a problem that needs to be taken care of. Somehow we need to figure out how to do that, because it's not fair to people who have businesses, who have to walk downtown. I sympathize with homeless people, but there are some people on the street, uh, for women that, some of these dudes out on the street, they got mental illness. Reagan, he shut down all the homes for the people who had mental problems in the 80s, and then the homeless population skyrocketed, and ever since there's been a lot of people that, to put a popular phrase out there, they got a screw loose in their head, and these people can be intimidating for women. I've seen the homeless guys messing with the ladies on the street, and then they won't do that to dudes. And again, it's not like all homeless people do this either. You can't demonize the whole group, but again, I mean, these are common scenarios that people have to deal with. And again, I mean, what would you rather have $60 million a day spent on? Supposedly stuff floating around in outer space, or actually, the place where you actually walk around every day getting cleaned up and taken care of, and some kind of solutions being brought to the table? And keep in mind, if we had a society that raised people right, and didn't get them hooked on junk food at a young age and alcohol and all this trash, that would help solve the problem overnight as well. Again, what our culture does from a young age is instill horrible values. Teaches people really bad eating habits. Those bad eating habits lead to poor brain function up here. Inadequate brain function leads to never reaching, the individual you were meant to be. And I mean, look at America. It's the land of broken dreams, and that's the thing too that they do to the children. They float all these ideas like you're going to be the next LeBron James. No, you're not. You don't have any chance. You have literally zero chance of being the next LeBron James. Doesn't matter if you go to be 6'7" and you're awesome at basketball. You're not going to be him. That's reserved for the guys that they have coming up in the lab, if you will, the born and bred to be ones. Like, we know what's really going on in these leagues. All these 7-foot tall men who don't know who their fathers are, because their fathers are actually former pro players. How many sons does Jordan have in the league right now? From Jimmy Butler to Anthony Edwards up in Minnesota, probably a few more that don't look as much like him. But again, it's just like we need a leader of this nation that pulls back the curtain on everything that's wrong that's going here. You know what I mean? All it's just, this nation, it's just built on deception and lies. I can't remember what the name of the act is, but Bush brought it up when he was president, the second one, George W. Bush. Somebody called him out on government propaganda in the media, and he like shrugged his shoulders like he used to, the Bush shrug. He's like, other presidents have done that too. I'm not the first one to have the government propaganda in the news. I mean, you guys, what kind of nation do we live in? A nation where our taxpayer dollars are spent on propaganda to persuade us to go along with BS? And then you got people like us exposing it, and you got all the people with their heads so far up their ass, like, what are you talking about, conspiracy theorists? Like, no, go back and listen to what the president said about how he's not the first one that has the program of creating government-sponsored propaganda. That's going on all the time to lead you into the next BS agenda, to undermine your rights and liberties, for the corporatocracy that just wants to rule over you, treat you like you're a cattle out in the field. You're getting used from the time you're born. They want to fill your body up at the youngest of age with junk food that they're going to market to you all day. So you beg for mom to go get those sugar smacks. And the next thing you know, you're addicted to sugar smacks. And then as you get older, that leads to other bad health decisions. But yeah, I think really the number one issue for this country is we need to do something about changing the way our bodies look. Because I mean, it's just a disaster to see the children of this nation and just how big and chunky and overweight they are. And, they already got blood pressure issues and diabetes and, younger and younger ages just having cancer and dying from this and that and things you never heard of 5, 10, 20 years ago. I mean, we'd never heard of a peanut allergy growing up. Peanut allergy? What? Now it's just rampant. You know, you're not going to get these two stooges on the stage tonight talking about what might have changed from generation to generation. Again, my parents' generation, when they were growing up from birth to 18, they were supposed to go out and get about 5 shots. My generation, it was probably like 12 shots. Now it's 72 shots. 72? What? And they want even more now. I mean, 72, it's going up, right? John Legend on TV, get your Pfizer, flu, and COVID at the same time because John Legend's doing it. These people are sick. John Legend. What about all the people just young age, just killing over? How much is Pfizer paying you to get on there and sell that propaganda so Pfizer can keep their stock price a little bit higher? And again, I mean, you're not going to hear that from either of these two stooges tonight. They were both for everything that went down. Trump tries to pretend like, I wasn't for the lockdowns. Dude, you were the president of the United States and you allowed lockdowns to happen all over the nation. You declared a pandemic emergency 2 days after who on Friday, March 13th, 2020. Trust me, I remember the day like it was yesterday. We were out in front of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation like real leaders, warning people exactly what was coming. We'd already figured out the whole thing before the kill shot even came out because we knew what Billy Goat said. I can't remember if we were quite onto the year of the tiger thing quite that soon. We might have been. We probably weren't far off. It might have been another month later. We had all figured out that it was going to roll on until the year of the tiger, which we were dead on about. Again, I put that down on the printed pages of my book. But yeah, these people, it's a joke that this is what America's given to choose between. The father of the jab, Kamala, who got her COVID shot by the numbers. Here, give me a second to look up a post. I should have had it up before I started. I want to talk to you about, today being 56 days before the election and the election being on that very special Jesuit day. Remember the 5th of November, the day leaving 56 days left in the year. Hold on. I want you to see this with Kamala. Let me see here. There we go. Here we go. All right. So this was not unique to Kamala. She was one of many people who did like the exact same ritual. Sanjay Gupta on CNN was another one I can remember off the top of my head. Kamala got her COVID shot for the first time on 12/29, and we all know 12/29 is the 201st prime number, like Event 201 was the simulation, and there's a reason the first Jesuit Pope lives in Suite 201 at the Vatican. But you see how Kamala was 56 years old at the time? And how she got the shot 70 days after her birthday? And remember, these numbers were all over the pandemic. Coronavirus equals 56 when you run the alphabetic order forward, 70 when you run it in reverse, just like COVID vaccine. And remember, the number 56 is the number 70 in base 8 counting. Trump declared the national emergency on 56 date numerology, and the pandemic began 56 years after his Jesuit education began at Fordham. And that was in the time of Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who also went to Fordham, who was the 56th governor. And of course, Anthony Fauci equals 56, and so does Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom, friends with Kamala, was the first governor to lock down his state, saying 56% of California will get the coronavirus in 8 weeks, which of course is 56 days. And he's 56 years old right now while these shenanigans are going on. But again, Moderna was a company founded by 2 Jesuits, one of them born on the 201st day of the year. But these people are all stooges. And this 56 number, Washington, D.C. equals 56, just like Society of Jesus. And again, that's the Jesuits who set up their camp in D.C. when they came over from across the Atlantic. And founders were warning about what could happen if they are again backed by the Roman Catholic Church and their suppression ends, how they could hijack the nation. And no doubt they did. Remember, it was a Jesuit, Klaus Schwab, who put on the Event 201 simulation. And you had the million other 56 rituals going. Don't forget, Boris Johnson was 56 at the time, and he introduced the 70% more infectious UK strain, and they said, oh, never mind, it's actually 56% more infectious. Again, these people are who were made to choose from. The two Jesuit stooges, Trump and Kamala, both doing their little 56 ritual today. And we know that the same people who simulated Event 201 simulated SPARS 2025. You know, we should have people on the stage tonight who are talking about how they will make sure the government never does what happened in 2020 again. Never again should be the motto for a 2020. Never again will the government lock people down and say you can't go to church, you can't go to school, you can't go to work, you can't go to the park. No, human beings have immune systems. I don't think there's any evidence that ever in history there's been a deadly pandemic. I really don't. I mean, you want to go back and look at Spanish flu, it looks like a total load of BS. Again, freedom is the word. Is America's motto not home of the brave, land of the free? How did that reflect with 2020? Were we free? No, we weren't. We were free to take orders. We were free to follow orders or else. Were we brave? I mean, come on, man. It was 99.9 something percent survivable. Was it even scary? The news tried to make it scary. CNN every night, a news story. This 25-year-old went to sleep seemingly healthy and woke up dead, or didn't wake up. His spouse woke up next to him dead. There were stories like that all the time because I remember that was scaring people. I remember one night, sweet lady was actually scared because she caught one of those stories, and I said, trust me, they're just trying to scare people. They locked down the nation because people died in a nursing home. You know what happens in nursing homes? People die all the time in nursing homes. Usually when people end up in nursing homes, they don't have that much longer to live. And that's also because of the practices that go on in nursing homes. The morphine drips they put on those people, you're out here ASAP. And the government wants that because they don't want to pay Social Security. Because their Ponzi scheme is, they know it's a Ponzi scheme. But no, 2020 was an embarrassment. And we had it right the whole time. And we got censored and buried and deleted and punished. And I can't even get any more views. I mean, my channel's dead. You know, I worked really hard and built up a many successful channels because I was deleted so many times. But since 2020, because we were so on point, we're just dead. You know, I mean, you never see any large views on any videos. You never see any large people in the live stream. They destroyed what we were doing because we were one of the biggest thorns in the side of the cabal. You know, again, I'll toot my own horn. I don't think anybody wrote a better book about the pandemic, and I got it out there fast, and I called exactly what they would do dead on, why they'd end their scandemic as soon as the year of the tiger came around. And again, Trump and Kamala were instrumental in it. Neither of them can pretend to be good people in it. And only the biggest of sheep are going along with either side. Donald Trump literally talking to sheep in his Serta ad before he won the rigged selection back in 2016. Talking to sheep 11 and 9, and then they call him president-elect on November 9th. You know, you never seen that Serta ad where he's talking to the sheep. Go back and check it out. But yeah, since I brought up Social Security, we need to come up with a plan for how to end Social Security in a fair way. Because, I mean, it's not fair for people who've paid all this money into it to not get anything back. That's not fair. And people say the world's not fair. But for the people who've paid into Social Security, they need to get something back, and they should get it back with interest because the government's been collecting their money over for a lot of people over a 50+ year time period, and then they can finally get something back when they turn 70. Some people start taking it earlier, but again, if you wait till you're 70, you get a decent payout. Like my dad did that because had he started taking it at 65, he would have got like $1,800 a month, whereas if he waited to 70, then he gets almost $3,000 a month. And for a guy like my dad who doesn't have a lot of money, you know, it's a huge difference. But again, Social Security is one of the biggest scams in the history of scams. It's amazing how many people can't see that it's a scam, you guys. Like, in what world should the government be able to take your money from you that you worked for and hold it for all that time And for the people out there, well, before Social Security, people would blow their money and not have any savings. And then, okay, you know what? I don't know what to say about that other than that's their fault. Okay. Freedom is the word. Let's just say free, because I hate the dumb part of the ending. That's really, like I always say, that's really the only part that matters in this nation. People can't see this, the land of the dumb and blind. But again, we know what freedom's supposed to mean. If people cannot take care of themselves, that's not any individual's fault. I'm horrified at the idea that I have to pay all this money to this corrupt government so they can give it back to me when I'm older. I know I'm a responsible person. I could put that money to so much better use than what the government's doing with it. And the fact that I have to wait till and I guarantee by the time, if Social Security still exists, by the time I'm 65, 70, I guarantee they move that date back. I guarantee it's been moved back by then, just like how they've moved it back further and further over time. So, by the time I'm that age, it'll probably be 80. Probably got to be 80 to get your Social Security money. What a joke, But that's why you better take care of yourself too. You take care of yourself. Actually, you can still have quality of life at age 80. But no, this stuff is all a joke. And again, they've created this just dependent society where they're just so horrified at the idea of, oh my God, so you want to get rid of Social Security? Yeah, I do. I do. But I want back what I paid into it. Give me back what I paid into it. I don't even need the interest back. Just give me back what I paid into it, and we'll call it good. Let's get rid of this program. Let's raise up an intelligent society that's not just so. And see, I mean, that's just the whole thing, you guys, because we're controlled by something that doesn't want an intelligent society. Like that book I was reading to you guys 2 years ago, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. Again, there have been steps taken by the fat cats because they want a society that's not very smart, easily manipulated. That way they can get them to sign on loans for cars and then end up paying double the price of the car. So the banker's like, hey, you like that car for $40,000? Yeah, please sign that note because we're going to make another 40 G's on the interest over the life of that note. See, smarter people will know how to look at that and do the math and be like, wait a minute, that's a bad idea. I don't need that car that much. I don't need to pay $80,000 for that car. Banker just living on me, making payments. And realize that's what you have. You have a class of people just living on us because we're dumb consumers that they raised, who don't know how to make smart financial decisions, who don't even know how to save any money, who don't know how to make a wise decision, who waste their money, impulsive, just buying all kinds of crap they don't need. So see, that's the whole problem. If we could fix society, and instead of this, this whatever structure that is ruling the thing that's making your textbooks and putting all the false history and all the BS in there and all the misinformation, if it's not that, and you're actually going to school and you're learning how to be a critical thinker and an intelligent person, and you're learning the value of saving and how much further you can get ahead, it would be highly actually motivating for a lot of people. Again, I used to be a 5th grade teacher, you guys. And for people who've been around, you heard me tell this story. The first year that I taught, I took over a classroom. I didn't have it at the beginning of the year. I took it over about a month and maybe a month and a half into the school year. And the teacher who I inherited the classroom from, he said to me as I went out that day, he said, good luck with this group. Good luck with this group. And I learned that first day it was a tough group. And I still remember the next day. It was a classroom of 32 students. And the next day, one child in the classroom brought back their homework. And it was hardly even done, but at least they did a little bit of it because not one other student brought back the homework. And so what I did that day, I just threw out the whole lesson plan. And I made up a story that was a real story that they could relate with from looking at their own environment, and explain to them why we got to put in some effort, even if we find that school is boring. And I said, okay, I'm going to tell you the story of person A and person B. I said, person A knows that school is not fun, and they don't like school, and they don't care about school, and they know someday they can just graduate from school, and that's how school is now. No child left behind. You don't have to do anything. You're just going to pass on to each grade, and then you can exit the classroom knowing nothing about nothing. That's the American education system that's set up right now. I said, so, okay. And you know what? You guys can get a job, working down at the McDonald's and you can make minimum wage, but maybe you won't even be able to get 40 hours a week. So let's look at what that looks like. You're going to get out of here someday. You're going to have bills to pay. You're going to be person A. You're going to make minimum wage and you're going to work $20, 20 hours a week. So I show them what that math looks like. Here's how much money you make a week. Here's how much you make in a month. Here's how much you make in a year. Here's how much you make in a decade. So they see this little number up on the board. And I said, now here's person B. Person B knows that school's kind of boring too, but person B wants to achieve in this world and they want to put themselves in a better spot and they want to have a better quality of life and they want to have some nice things. Here's what person B is going to do. Even though they're not crazy about school, they're going to come in and they're going to put in some effort and they're going to finish their homework even if they don't like it. And they're going to graduate and they're going to get to go to college. And then, and understand you guys, I'd also explain to these students, you don't necessarily have to go to college. I trust me, but this was just the initial point I was making. I said, they're going to go to college and they're going to go to University of Washington because I was teaching up in Seattle. And I said, they're going to get an engineering degree and they're going to work at Boeing because where this school was, Van Asselt, where I taught, it was right next to the Boeing plant. And I said, when they get out of college, they're going to make almost $50 an hour. Now, minimum wage at the time when I was teaching was like, I forget what it is now. It's like around $10 an hour. So I said, this person, they're going to work hard. And by the time they're 22, they're going to be out of school and they're going to make $50 an hour. And the thing is at Boeing, by your second year there, and this is back then, you'll be making $80 an hour. So I showed them the math on what that looked like. I said, look how much this person makes in a day, a week, a month, a year. And I said, just think about it, you guys. I said, look at how different those numbers are. And they were floored. They were like blown away by how different the numbers were. I could tell I was connecting with them. And then I said, okay, now here's the other thing. We started talking about real life cost of expenses and everything, just kind of showing them the picture of why you want a better salary and how if you do these things right, you can retire at a young age. And I said, think about it, you guys, you're young right now. If you work hard, I was in 5th grade. If you work hard from right now, a lot of them were 11 or 12 years old. You can have this future in 10 years. In 10 years, you can have achieved this if you put in 10 years of hard work right now. If you can commit to deciding that you're going to work hard for the next 10 years. And I said, think about it, you guys. 22, I wrote out a human lifespan. I said, let's say the average person lives to be 85 years old. Because you want to make them think they're going to live at least that long. And sadly, in these poor communities, it's actually a lot less than that. But I talked to them about eating healthy and everything. Anyway, I said, just think about it. I said, if you achieve this by the time you're 22, this means for the rest of your life, for 60 some, maybe even longer than that, you are going to be in such a great position. You're going to have wealth. You're going to have the things you want. You can retire early and enjoy the last 40 years of your life. I was explaining that. If you work hard, you can retire when you're 40. You can have the final 40 years of your life to do whatever you want. But if you never achieve and you're working for minimum wage for the rest of your life, you're going to be grinding until the day you die. So a lot of them got it. Like I told you guys, in that classroom, I still remember the one boy's name who I couldn't connect with. I won't say his last name, but his name was Haroon. He was the only boy I could not connect with in the classroom. And it's because his older brothers were gangbangers and put all the wrong ideas in his head. And he just wanted to be like his brothers, just this little badass who didn't care about nothing. And school's for, But no, I got that classroom on board. And again, I'm not a big fan of standardized testing and all the crap that they put on in the school. And trust me, I only stayed in the school system for so long because I can't stand what they do to kids. And they really do slap you on the wrist if you don't stick to the curriculum and put all the BS in their head that they want you to. You go a little bit off the book, you get disciplined, even if you do a great job. But, I had that classroom scorching. Like compared to the other classrooms, that their standardized test scores were just through the roof. And what it was just connecting with them and showing them in real world terms what it is to put in some effort and to commit for this young part of your life to set yourself up for a future. And again, It's really just a common sense thing, and it's the kind of thing that every teacher should really be doing. But then you start to look at the other teachers, it's like they haven't even figured these things out in their own life. And sadly, it's not that there's everyone knows the phrase "those who can't do teach." I mean, that's not true in all cases, but there are a lot of people in the classroom who are teaching the children where that is the case, and they have no business working around children. But again, I mean, that's what this nation needs is real leadership and putting the right ideas in people's heads and understanding why you should work hard why you should develop a work ethic, why you should take care of your body, why you should try to put yourself ahead when you're younger. And again, there's a reason that it's not that way. Again, they really do want a dumbed down populace that's easy to manipulate and take advantage of and turn into tax cattle and debt slaves. And Kamala and Trump serve that game, and so does every other stooge they're going to put up on the stage in these two bought and paid for political parties. So yeah, again, remember when they were telling you? Do you remember the ads in 2020? I mean, we were just getting the most just like the most pathetic ads in the history of advertising for their scandemic, like being vaccinated is health. Like they had an ad running like that. Watch, I was like, being vaccinated is health. Well, I remember being in like the grocery store, the only ones that were still open, Walmart and Costco, because everything got shut down, and there all these people with their guts hanging out of their shirt and just 100 pounds overweight, and they got their slave muzzles on and their little bandage on their arm. And I'm like, these people are really thinking this. These people that are 100 pounds overweight right now, they're thinking they're healthy for the first time because they went out and got the experimental jab from Pfizer. And that's the kind of populace they've created. Just like no thinking, no thinking skills in general, especially no critical thinking. And yeah, it's just like unbelievable. I mean, why wasn't the pandemic declared when we started to approach half the children are obese? I mean, that's the real pandemic. And think about what COVID really did for that. It just made it worse because now everyone's scared. Everyone's indoors. The park's shut down. You can't go to the gym. Yellow tape around all the playgrounds of the nation, and everyone just fell for it. And still, the nation hasn't learned. They still haven't learned. They're still on their hands and knees for Big Brother, waiting for him to tell them what to do next, who to vote for next. So yeah, you're not going to hear anything from either of these candidates that you need to hear tonight. They're not going to talk about any real issues. They're just going to talk about all their manufactured crap. There's always a new list of manufactured crap for every selection cycle, so they can talk about anything but the real issues facing the nation. I mean, another one is that they're going to talk about inflation, but it's just going to be finger pointing. And the reality is, you guys, listen. You want to point a finger at anybody the most? You got to point it at the guy who was in charge when they started printing all the money for the scandemic, and that was Donald Trump. Okay. Anyone who argues anything other than that, you're just a fool. Okay. You're just a partisan fool. I'm not saying the Democrats did anything to make it better. They're part of the problem too. I'm not taking either side, but I'm saying really, if you want to point that finger at who's most to blame for how expensive things got, you can't point it at anyone other than the guy who was there when all of these policies went into motion that caused this. And don't forget, I was here before they even gave us the first check. You guys, if my channel had been deleted, go back and watch exactly what I said when they announced that they were going to print money. I still remember exactly what I said that day. I said, when they start printing money, you guys, this means everybody. I use my dad as the example. I said, my dad doesn't even have $400,000 saved from his whole working career. My dad's one of these guys who's worked his ass off his whole life, but never for very much money. Doesn't even have $400,000 saved to his name as he's approaching age 70. And I said, watch the nearly $400,000 that he has in the bank. After they start printing this money, you just watch. It's going to be worth about $300,000 in terms of and it might be worse than that. It might be worse than that. Again, it's just like this house that I live in right now. This house is no different than the home that I bought in 2018. The home I bought in 2018, and I understand I'm in Washington State where homes are more expensive, so you could probably get the same house in Florida for $180,000, but in Washington it was $300,000 at the time. The same house now is $500,000. Right? Because of all of this money printing. And yeah, I mean, that's what politics is, you guys. And you have to understand that's why they have their term limits and stuff. That's really the real game. Because isn't that how it always works? It's like, everyone's like, oh, yeah, well, that might be going well in his administration, but it's really because of the last guy's policy. Like, that's what everyone was saying when Bill Clinton was president. People were saying when the economy was booming, when Bill Clinton was president, they were saying it was because of the things Reagan did. And once those things got rolling, Clinton was in the right place at the right time. And then, it's just like inflation. It started and then it gets worse. And then Biden's in there as it's like reaching its peak. And like everyone's like, oh, it's the Biden administration. You guys, they set this game up on purpose so everyone can keep going back and forth between these two parties that serve the same master. That's the way it is. That's the real way it is. So somebody says at least Clinton balanced the budget. So in a way, yeah, they balanced the budget so they weren't going to add on any more debt, right? But there was still a crazy amount of debt, and it's only gotten a lot crazier since. And that's the thing too. It's just like, if you're a Republican, all these Republicans always talk about how we need to reduce the debt and get fiscally responsible. But then every time there's a Republican administration, it's like, and Democrats too. I mean, this is the trend for this has been the trend for all of these administrations: Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, two Bushes, the King Georges, Obama, Trump. The same thing happens every time. It's the same stats every time. They're like, this administration grew the government more than every administration before it combined. I mean, that keeps happening every time now. Think about how insane that is. I mean, you don't think they're taking us to financial ruin at some point when they just pull the rug out from us and start the next Great Depression? Remember, Kamala was born October 20th, 1964, the same day the Great Depression president died, Herbert Hoover. And don't forget, Gerald Ford, he said it at the Herbert Hoover Library, October 18, 1989. He said the first female president will come when it's a VP and an old man's the president, he dies in office. So, yeah, for all you guys who keep asking me who's going to win the election, like I keep telling you, it looks like Kamala is destined to be number 47. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to come through the election. She could become number 47 if Biden does not finish his term. So, and if that happens, again, what's interesting is, here, let's pull up the list of U.S. presidents, and I want to show you two things about the name Harris in light of the president's Harris son. So look at this. List of U.S. presidents. Let's pull this up. All right, we're going to go down to Grover Cleveland. Remember, Trump's trying to emulate Grover Cleveland to become the first split-term president. Remember, Trump announced in 2022 that he was running for 2024. Grover Cleveland was the 22nd and 24th president, and between him was Harris' son, okay? So there's a scenario here where, again, Biden does not finish his term, Harris becomes president, and then Trump gets the second term like Grover Cleveland. And if that happened, obviously Kamala Harris would be the first female president, but for a very short period of time. And remember, the shortest term president in U.S. history was William Henry Harrison. And we know the way that they're always, pulling these jokes on us, paying tribute to history in a nation where those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. So, yeah, the things that they're doing with Kamala have made it more complicated to see who's supposed to win the rigged selection. But at the same time, it doesn't matter who wins the rigged selection. Kamala might be the one proposing unrealized capital gains taxes, which sounds completely insane. But if it's not that, it still shows the direction of where the government wants to go. They want crazy new tax expenditures because there's so much debt to be paid for. And, Republicans have been in there before and said there'll be no new taxes. Remember George H.W. Bush? He said, no new taxes, read my lips. And then what was there? There was a bunch of new taxes. It's just, Ronald Reagan said he wants government so small he can drown it in a bathtub. And then he made government way. I can't even do enough ways bigger than it had ever been before. Hollywood actor they brought in there, charmed the people. Oh, they love Ronald with his nice parted hair. running on mega, the highest degree of the Church of Satan, just like Trump, another Hollywood actor. And again, Trump, he's at the Obama White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Obama tells the joke that Trump's going to be number 45 days before Trump's birthday on April 30th, 2011, which was also the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan. So, yeah, you're not going to hear about that tonight either. Kamala's not going to bring that one up in the debate, I guarantee you. They're probably both in there in their cloaks after the ceremony, hot rodding it back to San Francisco. So, all right. I just got a text message. I got to help somebody out with something real quick. But again, this debate tonight, surely I will watch it because I just can't help myself to hear what the Stooges are going to say. But again, if you don't know what they're saying, you have less of a chance to wake up your fellow sheeple around you, which is really our obligation for all of us truth seekers and speakers. I mean, one way or another, we got to figure out a way to wake up the masses, or we are just... again, we're going to get here. Here's the trajectory of American quality of life, you guys. It's just a nonstop downhill. It just keeps going down, and it's going to continue to go that way unless somehow, some way, we find that Thomas Jefferson spirit where he said, if you want to preserve rights and liberties, there must be a revolution every 19 years, every 19. Remember, every 19, because the moon's on a 19-year cycle, and that's how the psychopaths operate. See, Jefferson knew what was up because he warned about the Jesuits. He knew about the 19-year cycle. Again, think about it, you guys. COVID-19, 19 years after 9/11 and the 19 hijackers. 2 towers became 0 before they became 1. Event 201 was the COVID simulation. 19 years before the war on terror was the war on drugs. 19 years before that was the war on JFK's head. 19 years before that was the year we deployed the most Americans to World War II. I don't know what we did 19 years before that, honestly. It would have been 1925. So, but I mean, that's quite a cycle of 19s. Boom, boom, boom. Every 19 years, the moon's in the same place in the sky it was 19 years earlier. That's why on the Hebrew calendar, the holidays fall on the same day every 19 years. But, yeah. Anyhow, here's my number one issue. Why are we subsidizing childhood obesity? Why are we subsidizing junk food? Why are we subsidizing illness when one of the biggest expenses of the American taxpayer is taking care of people's health from all this preventable disease and illness, which could be solved if people had healthy diets? If part of our, remember, 13 years of slave school, pledging the 13 stripes. Why isn't there more time learning about how to be an intelligent individual with critical thinking skills who knows how to read, write, solve problems, do math, things that, I mean, if you have those skills, you can flourish in this world. Because America's so behind in mathematics compared to China and India and Russia, it's why no American, I shouldn't say no, but almost no Americans work at big tech. And I think that's by design because, again, I mean, start interviewing some of these Chinese and Indian people. They understand that what they're doing is, they know what America is and they kind of feel bad, some of them. Some of them don't care at all because they're just getting 300, 400,000, 500, all this money. But some of them do know that they've come to America, a nation that's supposedly about freedom, and they're helping build a surveillance state. But they're the only ones that have the skills to build this kind of technology. The average American can, all they can really do is work the register at Walmart or now stand in the line at the, the self-checkout. And if somebody has a problem, they come over with their little card and scan and say, oh, here, you can do it again. Here's my skill set. Here, I can scan right here, and now you can try that again. And again, you guys, why is it that we spend like 10 times what India does? Actually, it's more than that. I think it's like 50 times. I think we spend 50 times what India does on a student. Yet, India churns out geniuses, and we churn out cash register workers at the Walmart. You don't think there's all kinds of reason or all places to cut all the glut in the spending? I mean, I get sick of being a homeowner as someone who's not even allowed to teach in schools anymore because of the book I wrote. That's what I found out in 2018. My first book got me blackballed from teaching in schools because they don't like what I wrote, which was a book of facts and truth. Again, God forbid anybody with a brain teach the children. But again, just every time that there's another measure for the taxes to go up so that they can do this for the school, it's like, we're already paying way too much for the school. I drove by the school. Looks like they're raising a bunch of little fat dummies. We need to pay more for. I mean, I wish it wasn't that way, but sadly, that's the truth. Churning out fat little dummies who are going to run home and play video games all night. I need to pay more tax money for that. Just let them sit home all day on their fat asses. Time they graduate, they'll be able to work at the Walmart. Everybody else went through the 13 years of slave school. So anyway, thank you, the beer guy. I got to hop off right now. Next time I come on a live stream, I'll drop a link and you can come on, the beer guy. But I'm sorry, I got to hop off right now. So anyway, we'll leave it there for now. Again, thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And until next time, True Seeker.